Good morning. What's going on in the hood? Cool. We got a little bit of a, I would say, tricky open in the market, and the reason is that we're gapping up a little bit on the Qs. We're gapping up a little bit on the Qs, but we're right into that resistance spot. But we don't necessarily resistance so your classic kind of like breakdown pullback. It may not come into play in this type of market. We've seen this a lot, like when markets break under like big supports, that you sometimes just start to grind your way back higher. So what it ends up doing is being a remount here. In your classic technical analyst terminology, right? This would be a breakdown, right? Breakdown, pullback play, but we're just not necessarily getting that. So we'll have to be a little bit careful today. We're getting into a little bit of a grind mode where, we're getting a little bit slightly long in the tooth, and we're definitely getting long in the tooth on like the Dow here. We're up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. Same thing with the S&P 500, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. So we may not get necessarily like that classic trend day today. The market has been pretty strong the last few days, but once you start getting a little bit extended and then you start running into some resistance levels, I think that, oftentimes we probably are going to get a couple shakeouts today, at least on the day trading side. I think on the swing trading side, meaning like multi-day holds, the market's looking a lot better, even though we may pull back or consolidate for a day or two. On the day trading side, I think we'll probably do for a little bit of a couple midday kind of shakeouts where you just kind of dump out of nowhere, get everybody to sell their shit, and then you kind of ramp it back. That's just how it works when you get a little bit extended. Let's take a look and see kind of what the earnings plays are and stuff like that. Hey Ryan, you can message me on TC2000 Kunal 00. And I'll, send you whatever I have here. I got some, different layouts and stuff. Let's find ourselves some juicy ones. Let me know what you guys are watching too. Zunai shared cloud computing, blah, 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 swung to profit, blah, 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 blah. Something like this. It may work. Chinese companies have been hot the last year. Earnings plays have been a little bit tricky. We've seen a lot of them kind of fail off. Now, we got Futu as earnings today, too. I would probably put this on watch for an ORB. I wouldn't consider this a huge priority because, this company's probably a big, gigantic, gelatinous, smelly piece of excrement. But I'd give this like a B setup, maybe even a C plus setup. We'll see what's going on. If it ORBs, we'll take a gander on it. You can see here, Futu also has earnings out today. It looks like they've had blowout earnings, but blowout earnings don't mean much because it's the same blowout earnings that they had when it was at $40. There's different stages to a stock cycle, right? So when you have like a stock, for example. This is like where people sometimes they'll read like a news or something and say it's really good. And it might be, but, in general, you have like different stages. So like when a stock starts its move, you got kind of like your primary base, right? And then you'll have, right, like these kind of like, next phases of its ascent. And then, you'll have like your next one, right? And so, then you'll have your next one. So what typically happens is like once you get into like the fourth base, 5 base, now like it gets a lot more tricky. It gets a lot more tricky where like the range will get loose, and those hot earnings, they may just not have the same juice as they did. It may not have the same juice as they did. We'll keep it on watch because it is a pretty it has got a big range on it. The ATR on Futu is $20 per day, meaning, it's got an intraday range of $20. It's got an intraday range of 20 bucks, so it's got the ability to move. I wouldn't be surprised if we had to flip it at some point. So I'd keep this on watch. We've seen a lot of these earnings plays even like kind of roll over. Yeah, I kind of, we may have to, come in hot on this thing. I would trade around these two levels here, and then we'll kind of see which way this thing wants a break. It's kind of like Yalla yesterday, where Yalla they had their earnings out and everything looked okay, and it just kind of faded over. It faded over the whole fucking day, right? We've seen that a lot with all sorts of earnings plays on the gap. We'll see. That just could be part of the phase we're in the market. Let's take a look and see what else is going on here. Billy, junk. Hey, Mo. Sao Paulo. Cool, Mr. Santo. Welcome. Hey, if these Chinese stocks do hold up, we do have bottoming patterns here on a Billy. We've got bottoming patterns on PDD. These are both bottoming patterns. I think both of these, they'll need future to hold up. Otherwise, they're going to be turds. But I think both of those we want to add to the list. We want to add those bad boys to the list, because if one goes, they'll all go. We got kind of two levels to kind of trade around on this future. When I'm looking at Ryan, when I'm looking for what I want to trade and how I want to trade it, like my overall thesis of a trade, I'm looking at the daily charts for idea generation. And then when I'm actually into the trading day, like where I'm doing my intraday trades, then I'm doing them off, my 5-minute chart. Junk. The problem with the market that I'm having right now is that, everything looks like a grind now. Where like you're like so far, you're getting like a little bit extended off the bottoms. And, classically, that'd probably be more of a short spot than a long spot. But when you're talking about like market indexes, they tend to grind higher and just, they force you to chase it. And we're getting into like that kind of weird spot where like a lot of the stocks, they're getting so long in the tooth, but they're just grinding higher. It's hard to find like really, really good stocks with some nice bases. Like this thing is right up like 80% in the last few days. Like, do you want to come in hot? If it spikes in the morning, like, do you really want to come in hot and balls deep on some ORB on it? May have to, but it's not an ideal scenario. So I think that ideally what you want to do is find some stocks that got, maybe even a couple days consolidation. That'll help because, you won't at least be just coming in hot. I think this Tiger's got a chance today if the rest of the Chinese stocks hold up. You've been chilling here for like the last few days. You got a nice easy level that's been building out at 24.50. I think as long as future doesn't shit the bed and take the rest of these China names down, this will probably have a chance. I put an alert around 24.50. That's where you want to start to kind of really monitor and see how the price action is, like, and kind of nail yourself into a good pattern. It's got an overall look of it. We'll see what's going on. Junk. I know a couple people have been asked about this RLX. This is a thin little bastard. Like, it had a nice range yesterday. This is a bottoming pattern too. To me, this looks more like kind of like a swing trade setup than a day trade setup. What I mean by that, it's got the range and everything you need. My question on it is going to be, does it got the liquidity? It seems like it does enough volume, but it didn't look that liquid, when I was looking at it yesterday. I do like the overall look. I think you could probably add it. Not my particular flavor, but it's all right. SDC, junk. What you want to do when you go through the gappers list too is like, anything that's really above, probably about 3% or more, I would, take a look. You want to at least look at the daily charts. And then same thing on the downside. Anything that's broken down 3% or more, is something that is in play. Now, see this? This is something I could get downtown Julie Brown on. So you got a breakdown. It stalled off at the 50 SMA. It's reported earnings. I don't even understand why companies like FCell would even report earnings. It's not like they'd ever even have any earnings, but here we are. You know what? This thing is a big smelly turd too. I've been waiting to take this thing down for a long time. This is, if this thing ORBs or pops off at the open, we'll start to get this thing going. Man, we shredded, Ramo, that OCG yesterday. Shredded that thing. Man, it's 5s, then 6s. This I like. Now, if this thing starts to roll over, then I think we start to go after Blink 182. We can start to go after Blink 182 and some of these other kind of turdy ones if it spills over. But, FCell's easy to borrow. It's easy to borrow. It's got good enough range. It's not even that low of a float. So you can actually, if you start to see an intraday pattern on this bad boy, I think this one will be hot. I think we'll be able to take this thing down. Junk. Let's see here. GME, untradeable. Run. You know what? I didn't see. Anybody see any news on Run? This one is also probably a little breakdown pullback. I think we probably short this thing back. This thing is $47. If we need a couple shorts, Run, FCell, both of these look ready. Both of these look ready to flush out. Ooh, SPWR also got the news out too. You know what? Thank you, Blizzy, because this one's actually got a better location. Add SPWR to the list. So it looks like California's got some, Blizzy says California's got some legislation against these two companies. You don't want to short any of these blindly, but if we start to see an intraday setup, we'll go in hot on this thing. Let's see if it's got the little goose in the gander. This OCJ, I'm not necessarily sure. It's opened down quite a bit. I mean, we may be able to take like a quick hold on it if it, runs over here. But I like light opens. Like this is a lot trickier. Hold on here. There, it's down 22%. Blizzy, there's nothing you can do about that. You had the right setup. News is news, right? If it holds this level, you might be able to take a little scalp on it, for a little bit of a rounding pattern. You do have, the SSR should be on it. Probably this thing with the NFTs is going to be around. I did post in the chat room an NFT list for you guys. There's a whole host of these that are, decent looking that you may want to, bust into. You guys could download it right into your TC2000. Hold on here. Yeah, you can see there's a whole host of these. I won't deal with any of the kind of penny ones, but there are a few of these. Like this thing had some crazy good volume yesterday. A nice range into the close. Like that's what you want to see, right? Like a nice $5, $6 push. This Zkin's got a decent chart on it too. This one actually has good liquidity. Hold on, this one's actually got good liquidity on it. It's 11 million shares in volume. Funko is another one. This one looks a little bit extended. This YVR, now on this bad boy, you got yourself like a level here. It'll take a little bit of juice to get going. Probably more, these are more like end of day type of breakouts. But you can see this is a weekly chart. It had a 1-to-5 reverse split a little bit ago. But you can see here, this is like really your sweet spot that it would need to get over. If it starts to cook over there, then I think you'll be, you'll be fine. I draw a level there. Anything under that is going to be tricky. I think anything under that is going to be tricky, but I do think this one's got, probably a shot. You got Pong. This is more of an OTC, but this is Atari. Atari's pretty cool. right? Spaced Invaders or whatever. Kodak is a turd. IMTI is a turd. We'll see. This one, I'm hesitant to bust back in this because we really banked a good one on this. We'll see if it holds. I like light opens. I don't like when they come in. I don't like when they come in too big of a gap down. But frankly, if the SSR is on it, we may be able to come in hot. So let's just rewind the clock here. We got FSR, I think, is due for a bounce today, Monica. You're sitting on the 20 SMA, and you're really tightening up here. I think this one's probably got a chance. It's had a nice marination. On it. I don't think it matters, Blizzy. If it's got a close enough name, it looks fine. Yeah, we'll leave that one alone too. Bum, 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 bum. Jump. Alert! Airbnb 215. I think these airlines are still probably going to hold up here as long as they hold over the breakout spots. Let's take a look here. Riot and Mara are having a little bit of pullbacks. So far, they look fairly light. I think, we could still keep trading these back and forth. I mean, they're daily traders for us at this point. But the pullbacks yesterday were, frankly, they were a little bit overbought. Now they're kind of they're pulling back, but it's been an orderly pullback. I still like both of these. I think, if they were going to snap, like they would, if they were going to snap, they would have snapped hard yesterday. You would have seen them 15, 20, 30% down like we saw like when they collapsed and we were shorting them. This was yesterday, I think, was a fairly light pullback. I think those are still like top of the list to day trade. I wouldn't be trying to swing trade in these bad boys. NNOX looks okay. The problem with NNOX is it's just sitting at resistance here. That's a tricky one for me. Yeah, I'll get you this list. Hold on here. Yes, I mean, some of these NFT stocks, they may need a day or two of breather. We'll keep an eye on them. We'll keep an eye on them. I think this Tiger, we got Tiger, Future, Billy. I think these are our main buckets. And then, we got on the short side, FCell Run, SPWR. I think that'll give us just enough shorts to shred. And we got some longs. Now, the question on Future and Billy and those is going to be, right, do we have the ability to hold those gaps? We don't necessarily know. This earnings season's been super weird. Like, gaps have not held well at all. Hey, QS was a hot runner yesterday for a little bit. Like, I would still be goosing that. Good. I think those are our buckets. We got the Chinas, we got the Bitcoins, and then we got these three down gappers in FCell Run, SPWR. I think we kind of bucket those together like that, and we should be good to go. So I want you to go, right? China's, that's your Tiger, Baidu, PDD, and then we got to add Billy Bong and Future. Then we got our Bitcoin stocks, and we got these three shorts, and then we got our daily traders. I think we should be able to shred. If Future goes, watch this Tiger. They tend to run together. All right? That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Let's go shred today. Let's have some fun. I think FCell, you probably got to let it pop, and then we'll load in for the short. All right? Peace.